Saturn is preparing you for greater victory. There are people who are born to follow the crowd, and then there are people who are born to walk through fire. If you have ever wondered, why has my life always felt like one battle after another? If you have asked yourself, why do opportunities appear only to disappear at the last moment? Why do I always feel like I am fighting harder than everyone around me? Then don't leave this video, because this isn't another horoscope. Perhaps it's your story. According to Vedic Astrology, Saturn isn't trying to stop Aries. He is trying to transform the warrior into a leader. Over the coming months, many Aries natives may begin noticing subtle yet powerful shift, not because luck has suddenly arrived, but because Saturn's lessons are beginning to bear fruit. Today, I will reveal the 10 signs that your Saturn cycle is turning in your favor, and why the greatest victory of your life may not be the one you have been chasing, but the one that quietly preparing to find you. Before we go any further, I want you to imagine something. Close your eyes just for a moment. Picture an ancient kingdom. Its walls are tall, its banner dances in the wind. Thousands of soldiers stand ready for battle in front of them. A young warrior grips his sword tightly. His heart races, his blood burns with excitement. He doesn't fear the battle. He welcomes it, because deep inside he believes life rewards those who moves first, charge first, fight first, win first. That is the spirit of Aries. Fearless, passionate, determined. But just before the army begins marching, an old sage steps onto the battlefield. The soldier laughs. What can an old man teach warriors? The sage looks only at the young warrior. He smiles, then says quietly, "The greatest battle you will ever fight is the one no one else can see." The warrior doesn't understand. He laughs, raises his sword, and charges into the battle. Years pass. He wins many fights, yet somehow his victories never feel complete. He gains success only to lose peace. He gains recognition only to lose trust. He wins arguments but loses people he loves. Every battle teaches him something, yet the lesson never feels finished. One evening, after another exhausting victory, the warrior returned to the same old sage. His armor is scattered, his face carries scars, his confidence has become quieter. He asked, "Master, why do I keep fighting? Why does every victory seems to create another battle?" The old man looks towards the setting sun, then answers, "Because you still believe your enemy lives outside of you. Your greatest opponent has always been your own impatience." Aries, doesn't that feel familiar? Since childhood, something inside you has always wanted to move, to create, to lead, to explore, to act. Waiting has never felt natural. When others hesitate, you move. When others doubt, you decide. When others fear, you step forward. It's one of your greatest strengths. But sometimes it also becomes your greatest challenge, because life isn't always won by sea. Sometimes it is won by timing, and timing belongs to Saturn. People often misunderstand Saturn. Some fear him, some blame him for every delay, others think he is the planet of punishment. But ancient Vedic sages described Saturn differently. They called him the master of time. Imagine a master swordsmith. He places raw steel into blazing fire again and again and again. The metal bends, cracks, glows. Then he strikes it with a hammer over and over. If the steel could speak, it would probably ask, "Why are you hurting me?" But the swordsmith knows something the steel doesn't know. Without the fire, there is no strength. Without pressure, there is no blame. Saturn works exactly the same way. He never burns you to destroy you. He burns away everything that would have broken you later. Many Aries spend years asking why I am being delayed, but perhaps that isn't the right question. The better question is, what was Saturn protecting me from? Think back. How many times did something you desperately wanted never happen? A relationship, a promotion, a business deal, a dream. At that moment, it felt like failure. Today, when you look back, perhaps you realize that if you would received it, your life may have gone in a completely different direction. Sometimes the greatest blessing arrives disguised as disappointment. Saturn understands something most of us forget. Not every open door leads in. Let me tell you another story. In an ancient kingdom, there lived an eagle trainer. People traveled from distant lands to watch his magnificent bird. One day, a young prince asked him, "How do you train an eagle to fly higher than every other bird?" The old trainer handed him two feathers. One belonged to a sparrow, the other to an eagle. "Throw them into the wind," he said. The prince did. The sparrow's feather danced gently through the air. The eagle's feather fell straight to the ground. The prince looked confused. The trainer smiled. "The eagle does not depend on the wind. It depends on its own strength." Then he pointed towards the sky. Far above the clouds, an eagle soars alone. From teach eagle how high they can truly fly. Aries, perhaps you have spent years believing life has given you too many storms. What if these storms were teaching you how to fly? This is where Saturn enters your story, not as an enemy, but as a mentor. Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars says, "Go now." Saturn says, "Wait until you are ready." Mars seeks victory. Saturn seeks mastery. Mars wins battles. Saturn builds legends. Neither is wrong, but when they work together, something extraordinary happens. The fearless warrior becomes an unstoppable leader. Maybe that's why your life has unfolded differently than you expected. You wanted quick victories. Life gave you long lessons. You wanted immediate recognition. Life taught you humility. You wanted constant movement. Life demanded patience. And every time you resisted, the lesson returned. Not because the universe wanted to punish you, but because Saturn never skips a lesson. Imagine trying to build the tallest lighthouse in the world. Would you begin with the windows, the paint, the decorations? Of course not. You begin underground, digging, laying foundations, strengthening stone after stone. For months, people walking past see nothing. Some even laugh. Nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, the foundation grows deeper every day. Years later, when the storms arrive, every smaller tower collapses. Only the lighthouse remains standing. Aries, perhaps your life has been spent building foundation while everyone else celebrated unfinished tower. Now, I want to ask you something. When was the last time you stopped measuring your life by how quickly it was moving? Because Saturn never asks, "How fast are you going?" He asks, "You are becoming the person capable of carrying what you have been praying for?" That question changes everything. And tonight we are only getting started, because in the next part I will reveal the first 5 unmistakable signs that Saturn's rewards are finally beginning to appear in the life of an Aries. Some of these signs are so subtle, most people completely overlook them. But once you recognize them, you will never see your journey the same way again. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't the battle you win, it's the person you become before the battle is over. Aries, I want to ask you something. Have you ever noticed that your biggest battles were never against strangers? They were against yourself, against your own expectation, against the pressure you placed upon your shoulders, against the voice inside that kept saying, I should already be further in life. Maybe you have looked around and watched people who started after you somehow move ahead of you. You congratulated them, you smiled, but deep inside there was a question you never spoke aloud. What am I doing wrong? Maybe you worked harder, maybe you took more risks, maybe you sacrificed more sleep, more weekends, more peace of mind. Yet somehow success always seemed to arrive a little later than you expected. If you have ever felt that way, listen carefully, because Saturn has been teaching you something that most people never understand. You don't become a leader by reaching the finish line first. You become a leader by learning how to keep moving when everyone else has already stopped. That is why Aries often feel exhausted, not because life has been unfair, but because you have spent years trying to outrun time itself, and no one outruns Saturn. Not because Saturn is stronger than you, but because Saturn is time, and time always wins. Until one day you stop fighting it and you begin walking with it. That is the moment everything changes. Let me tell you another story. There was once an old horse trainer who lived on the edge of the great valley. Kings sent him the wildest horses in the kingdom. Every trainer before him had failed. The horses kicked, they ran, they refused every command. One young student watched the old man in amazement. Days passed. The old trainer never shouted, never struck the horse, never forced it. Instead, he simply stood nearby, silent, patient. The student became frustrated. Master, when are you going to train the horse? The old man smiled. I am not training the horse. I am allowing the horse to trust me. Weeks later, the wild horse followed him everywhere, without a rope, without fear, without force. Aries, your life has often been like the horse, powerful, fearless, independent. But Saturn wasn't trying to break your spirit. He was teaching your strength to move with wisdom, because strength without wisdom becomes destructive. But strength guided by patience changes the world. Now let's talk about the first sign that your Saturn cycle is beginning to shift. Sign number 1. You no longer react immediately. Think about who you used to be. Someone criticized you. You answered instantly. Someone challenged you. You fought back immediately. Someone doubted you. You wanted to prove them wrong. But lately, something has changed. You pause, you breathe, you observe. You don't waste your energy on every disagreement. And strangely, people begin respecting you more. Why? Because real power doesn't need to announce itself. The loudest person in the room rarely controls the room. The calm one often does. That calmness is Saturn quietly taking his place beside Mars, and together they create wisdom. Sign number 2. Your definition of success begins to change. There was a time when success meant beating everyone else, being first, winning, standing above the crowd. Today, success feels different. Now, success means sleeping peacefully, having honest people around you, building something that lasts, protecting your family, living with purpose. That's Saturn changing your wisdom. Mars asks, how fast can I climb? Saturn asks, will the ladder still be standing 10 years from now? You begin choosing permanence over excitement, and that decision changes your destiny. Sign number 3. You become comfortable walking above. Aries, this lesson is painful because you are naturally generous. When you care about someone, you give everything. Your loyalty, your energy, your time, sometimes even your dreams. But Saturn eventually asks, who are you? When no one is cheering for you. Maybe your circle has become smaller. Maybe some friendship quietly faded. Maybe certain people disappeared only once they could no longer benefit from you. Doesn't see this as a loss. Think of an archer preparing to shoot. Before the arrow flies forward, it must first be pulled backwards. Sometimes life pulls you away from people only so it can launch you towards your purpose. Now, let's stop for a moment. Close your eyes. Imagine standing inside an ancient forge. The room glows with orange fire. A blacksmith is creating a magnificent sword. He places the blade into flames, then into cold water, again into fire, back into water, over and over. You ask him, why not leave it in the fire? He smiles, because too much heat makes the blade brittle, too much comfort makes it weak. Aries, perhaps your life has alternated between challenge and peace for exactly that reason. Every hardship strengthened you. Every peaceful season reminded you what you were fighting for. Neither was wasted. Let's continue. Sign number 4. Your anger becomes turning into purpose. Think before it. When you were younger, anger felt powerful. It pushed you forward. It gave you energy, but it also stole your peace. Now, instead of reacting, you channel that energy into your work, into your business, into your health, into your dreams. This is the moment a warrior stops swinging the sword wildly and begins aiming with precision. One focused strike is worth more than 100 reckless ones. Sign number 5. Unexpected mentors begin approaching. Sometimes they are older, sometimes they are younger, sometimes they never even realize they are changing your life. A sentence, a book, a conversation, a chance meeting. One piece of wisdom arrives exactly when you need it. When you begin noticing these encounters, pay attention, because wisdom often arrives quietly. There is something also I want to tell you, and I hope you will remember it. Aries people often admire your courage, but they rarely see your hidden fears. The fear of wasting your potential. The fear that one day you will wake up and realize you never become the person you knew you could be. That fear has driven you for years, but it doesn't have to drive you anymore, because Saturn isn't asking you to become someone else. He is simply asking you to become the highest version of who you have always been. Not louder, not faster, not more aggressive, simply wiser. Because courage guided by wisdom becomes leadership. Passion guided by discipline becomes greatness, and that is exactly where your journey is leading. In the next chapter, we will uncover the remaining 5 signs that Saturn's rewards are approaching. We will also explore the hidden habits, the do's and don'ts, and the powerful shift that transforms an Aries from someone who wins battles into someone who builds a legacy. Because your greatest victory may not be the one the world applauds. It may be the quiet moment when you finally realize you have already become stronger than every obstacle that once frightened you. Aries, there comes a moment in every warrior's life when the battlefield becomes quiet. No enemies, no cheering crowds, no one asking for your strength, only silence. For some people, silence feels peaceful. For Aries, it can feel uncomfortable because you have spent so much of your life moving that standing still almost feels unnatural. But Saturn has a remarkable way of using silence, not to punish you, but to introduce you to someone who have rarely met your true self, not the version trying to impress people, not the version proving everyone wrong, not the version chasing one more achievement, the real you, the one who exists when there is nothing left to prove. Perhaps that is the greatest battle of all. Let me tell you another story. Long ago, there lived an old sculptor whose statues were admired throughout the kingdom. One day, a young apprentice watched him carve an enormous block of marble. For weeks, the apprentice heard was the sound of the hammer, stone falling, dust everywhere, no beauty, no masterpiece. Finally, unable to contain his curiosity, the apprentice asked, "Master, when will you begin creating the statue?" The old sculptor smiled. He gently placed his hand upon the marble and replied, "My son, the statue has always been inside. I am simply removing everything that doesn't belong." Aries, perhaps that's exactly what Saturn has been doing with your life, not creating someone new, removing everything that was never truly you. The impatience, the anger, the need for constant approval, the fear of slowing down, one lesson at a time, a season at a time. Saturn has been revealing the person hidden beneath all those layers. Now, let's look at the next sign that your season is changing. Sign number 6. You no longer need to have the last word. There was a time when winning the argument felt like winning the battle. Today, you have discovered something much more valuable: peace. Not every misunderstanding deserves your explanation. Not every accusation deserves your response. Some people argue not to understand you, but to keep you distracted. Saturn teaches discernment. He reminds you that your energy is your greatest currency. Spend it wisely. Sometimes walking away is the strongest statement you can make. Sign number 7. Your relationship with failure changes completely. Think back to the younger version of yourself. Failure felt personal. One mistake and you questioned your abilities. One rejection and you wondered if you would ever succeed. But today, failure no longer frightens you. Why? Because experience has taught you something extraordinary. Every setback carried a lesson. Every closed door redirected your path. Every disappointment forced you to grow in ways success never could. Ancient Vedic wisdom often reminds us that karma isn't only about rewards, it's about refinement. Saturn doesn't ask, "Did you fall?" He asks, "What did you become after you stood up again?" That answer matters far more. Sign number 8. You begin attracting opportunities instead of chasing them. Notice the difference. For years, you believed success meant running after every opportunity. Now, you have become more selective. You ask better questions. This align with my purpose? Will this bring lasting peace or only temporary excitement? Does this opportunity respect my values? This change may seem small, but it transforms everything because not every opportunity is an opportunity. Some are distraction, wearing attractive clothes, and Saturn has trained your intuition to recognize the difference. Imagine standing beside a river. The water rushes past. If you desperately try to grab every branch floating downstream, you will exhaust yourself. But if you know exactly what you are looking for, you will wait patiently. And when the right boat arrives, you will recognize it instantly. That is how wisdom works. Patience isn't doing nothing. Patience is refusing to waste energy on the wrong direction. Sign number 9. Your confidence become quieter. People often confuse confidence with loudness. Aries, you have learned otherwise. The strongest oak tree doesn't announce its strength. It simply stands through every storm. You no longer need everyone to notice your progress. You no longer seek applause before taking action. Your confidence comes from something much deeper. You trust yourself not because you have never failed, because you have survived every failure. That's a very different kind of confidence and it cannot be taken away. Sign number 10. You finally understand that your greatest competition was never another person. It was the version of yourself that acted before thinking, that spoke before listening, that reacted before understanding, that rushed before preparing. The battle was always internal, and today you are winning it not perfectly, consistently, every day, not but consistently and consistently is Saturn's favorite language. Now, Aries, let's talk about something practical. If you truly believe your Saturn cycle is shifting, there are certain habits that will strengthen this new chapter, not because they are magical, but because they align your actions with the lesson you have already learned what you should do. Wake each morning with intention. Before checking your phone, ask yourself, what is the one meaningful action I can take today? Protect your physical health. Mars gives you energy. Saturn reminds you to preserve it. Exercise regularly, but don't compete with everyone. Compete with yesterday's version of yourself. Practice patience in small ways. Stand in a long queue without frustration. Drive without rushing. Listen without interrupting. These ordinary moments quietly train extraordinary discipline. Keep learning, read books, seek mentors. Never believe you know everything. The greatest leaders remain lifelong students. Honor your commitments. Every promise you keep strengthens your self-respect, and self-respect creates confidence. What you should avoid: don't make life-changing decisions in moment of anger. Don't mistake moments for progress. Being busy isn't the same as moving towards your purpose. Don't let pride prevent you from asking for help. Even the strongest warrior needs trusted companions. Don't burn bridges simply because you are ready for a new journey. Live with dignity. People remember how you treated them long after they forgot your achievements. And finally, don't measure your worth by how quickly success arrives. Measure it by the person you are becoming, because that person will determine how long success stays. Aries, there is something else I want to tell you. Perhaps the greatest miracle Saturn performs isn't changing your circumstances, it's changing your perspective. The mountains looks different when you have learned how to climb. The storm feels different when you have learned how to sail. Life itself hasn't changed. You have. And that realization is worth more than any temporary victory, because the strongest leaders aren't those who never struggle. They are the ones who allow every struggle to shape their wisdom. In the final chapter, we will return to the battlefield where our story began. But this time, the young warrior won't be standing there. Someone else will. Someone calmer, someone wiser, someone who no longer fight to prove his strength, but to protect what truly matters. Because Saturn's greatest reward isn't giving you a crown, it's transforming you into the kind of person worthy of wearing one. Aries, let's return to where our journey began, the battlefield. But look carefully. Something is different. Years ago, you would have charged forward without hesitation, sword raised, heart racing, determined to defeat everything standing in your way. Today, you still stand on the battlefield, but your eyes are different. There is no anger, no desperation, no need to prove yourself, only clarity, because the greatest victory of your life was never over another person. It was over the chaos that once lived inside you. And that is Saturn's final lesson. Not how to conquer the world, but how to conquer yourself. There is an ancient story told in India about a king who wished to become the greatest ruler in history. He conquered his treasures, filled entire palaces, yet every night he slept with fear. Fear that someone stronger would one day take everything away. One evening, an old sage visited the palace. The king proudly showed him his wealth, his soldiers, his golden throne. The sage quietly asked one question: "Tell me, if someone insults you tomorrow, will you still sleep peacefully?" The king remained silent. The sage smiled. "Then you are not ruling your kingdom. Your emotions are ruling you." That single sentence changed the king forever. Aries, perhaps you have been trying to conquer the outside world, while Saturn has been teaching you to master the inner one, because the person who controls their own mind cannot easily be defeated. Think about the last few years. How many storms have you survived? Moments when you believe this is too much. Perhaps it was financial pressure. Perhaps it was heartbreak. Perhaps it was betrayal. Perhaps it was watching your plans collapse after years of effort. At the time, those moments felt like ending. But today, can you see something different? Each difficulty forced you to develop a strength you didn't know you possessed. Patience, discipline, discernment, humility, resilience. No university teaches these lessons. Life does. And Saturn is one of the life's greatest professors. Imagine an eagle when a storm approaches. Most birds searches for shelter. They hide beneath trees. They wait for the wind to stop. The eagle does something extraordinary. Instead of escaping the storm, it spreads its wings. The powerful winds that frighten other birds lift the eagle higher than ever before. The storm becomes the very thing that carries it upwards. Aries, perhaps the storms you have feared have actually been lifting you towards a version of yourself you could not have reached in calm weather. There is something important I want you to remember. Success is not always loud. Sometimes the greatest success is waking up without a fear. Sometimes it's rebuilding your confidence after years of self-doubt. Sometimes it's choosing peace instead of revenge. Sometimes it's forgiving yourself. And sometimes it's simply refusing to quit. Never underestimate quiet victories, because quiet victories becomes lasting victories. Now let's speak about your future, not in terms of prediction, but in terms of preparation. The coming season will ask something new for you. Not more strength, you already have that. Not more courage, you have proven that countless times. It will ask for balance. Balance between ambition and peace, between work and family, between confidence and humility, between action and patience. This is where many Aries stumble. When life finally begins improving, they become impatient again. They try to achieve everything at once. Remember, a tree doesn't produce fruit the same day it blossoms. Growth has its own rhythm. Respect it. There may also be people returning from your past, old friends, former colleagues, perhaps even someone who once walked away. Don't judge them with bitterness, but don't welcome everyone back simply because they returned. Saturn teaches forgiveness, not forgetfulness. You can wish someone well without giving them the same place in your life they once had. That is wisdom. Your intuition will become one of your greatest gifts. Listen to it. If something feels forced, pause. If something feels peaceful, explore it. Not every opportunity needs an immediate answer. Silence is often where the correct decision becomes clear. The younger Aries believed every opportunity had to be seized immediately. The wiser Aries understands that the right opportunity will still be there after careful thought. Now, let me ask you something. 5 years from now, what do you want people to remember about you? Your salary, your job title, the car you drove, or the person you become? Did you inspire others? Did you keep your promises? Did your family feel safe because you were there? Did people trust your word? These are the things Saturn values, because reputation are built slowly but can disappear overnight. Character once earned remains with you forever. There is another story I would like to leave you with. A traveler once asked an old monk, "How do I know if I'm walking the right path?" The monk pointed towards two roads. The first was crowded. People were running, competing, arguing, trying to get ahead of one another. The second road was quiet. Few people walked there. The traveler asked, "Which one leads to success?" The monk replied, "The one where you don't lose yourself while walking." Aries, never become so focused on reaching your destination that you forget who you are becoming along the way. As this journey comes to an end, I want you to stop for just a moment. Think about the younger version of yourself, the one who doubted everything, the one who feared failure, the one who wondered if life would ever become easier. If you could speak to that version of yourself today, what would you say? Perhaps you would tell them, "Keep going. The pain won't last forever. One day you will understand why every delay happened. One day you will thank yourself for refusing to give up." That conversation isn't imaginary because that younger version still lives inside you, and today they need to hear those words. Aries, if this message found you at the right moment, perhaps it wasn't by accident. Perhaps it arrived because you are standing at the edge of a new chapter, a chapter where courage is guided by wisdom, where ambition is balanced by patience, where strength is softened by compassion, where success is measured not only by what you achieve but by who you become. Remember this: whenever doubt returns, the mountains was never your enemy, the storm was never your punishment, and the delay was never your rejection. They were your preparation. And now, the person standing before the next chapter is no longer the impulsive warrior who began this journey. You are someone who has earned your wisdom, earned your resilience, earned your patience, earned your future. So walk forward with confidence. Protect your peace, honor your word, trust your intuition, and let your actions speak louder than your promises. Because Saturn never forgets sincere effort. Every honest step, every disciplined choice, every act of integrity becomes part of the destiny you are quietly building. If this story reflected your journey, don't simply write Aries in the comments. Write these 4 words: "I chose courage with wisdom." Read those words again, not for the algorithm, for yourself, because sometimes the commitments we make in silence become the foundation of the life we have been waiting for. Until we meet again, walk with courage, act with patience, lead with humility, and remember, your greatest victory has never been defeating others. It has always been becoming the highest version of yourself. May Almighty Lord bless you with fearless courage. May Mars gives you righteous action, and may Saturn reward your discipline with lasting success, inner peace, and a legacy that endures long after applause has faded. Take care, and I will see you in the next journey. Thank you.